Xbox on.
Game on, baby! Wow!
Don't make a girl a promise you can't keep.
Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to Xbox One Party Chat Podcast, the official podcast of the Xbox One subreddit. I'm joined by our warden saviour.
What?
Saviour, Jesus Christ, and everyone's favourite senior editor for Xbox for Windows Central, Jez Corden.
I've got to be the favourite because I'm the only one.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure Jess is only uncle as well. Now,
Yeah, we have a special guest.
yeah, we do have a special guest joining us, not just for an interview, but for the entire episode. Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this week. So, do you listen to the podcast? I'm going to put you in the spot right here. If the answer's not yes, it's going to be a very short visit.
I've listened to parts of it. I'm really terrible, because I don't listen to many podcasts and I don't read many other websites. I basically just sit on Reddit all day, looking for news stories, and I don't even listen to Major Nelson's podcast. And I always think I need to listen to this podcast because probably has important information, but it's just finding the time, honestly, it's just finding the time.
If you're on Reddit all day, every day, you're my best friend.
Yeah, yeah, I love Reddit. It's my favourite site ever, and it's actually how I got my start in journalism is from Reddit.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that save that. We're gonna nag you with some questions later on. That's going to be an interesting story. So,
what I have heard in the podcast is very, very good stuff, and I will endeavour to listen to it more often.
Yes, these are the correct answers. So, Ross,
Yeah.
why don't we get started?
Yeah, so we usually start with what we have been playing. And as you're the guest this week, Jez, I'm going to ask, what have you been playing? What have you been doing all this week?
Well, this week I've been playing Halo Wars 2. In the past week, I've been playing Halo Wars 2 for review on WindowsCentral.com. And also I've been playing Torment Tides of Numenera for review. Which,
you son of a bitch! I backed that game. I've been waiting for 3 year. 3 years.
Oh wow!
I'm getting off this podcast. I've had enough.
I can't really talk about that one because I'm under NDA, obviously. But
yeah.
I'm sure they won't mind me saying that I've been enjoying myself with that so far. Halo Wars 2. I really, really loved Halo Wars 2, and one of the reasons is I'm a casual Halo fan. I've always played Halo, every single Halo that's come out, and I talked about this a bit in the review. I played Halo 1, I skipped school to play Halo 1, skipped school to play Halo 2. I wrote a rap song about Halo 2 as a teenager, which no one will ever hear.
I was about to say, that sounds like a great outro for this episode.
No, it really isn't, trust me. But and it's really funny, actually, because it's a snapshot of the time. The rap I wrote about Halo 2 is based on an argument I was having at school about whether Halo 2 was better than Half-Life 2.
Oh, that's a hard argument.
Console wars even decades ago now at this point. But, I've always played Halo games, and when Halo 5 rolled around, I just sort of becomes more of a passive fan. I hadn't watched any of the movies that I put out. I don't read any of the books or the comics or any of that stuff. And Halo 5 just felt totally alien to me. Like, some of the stuff in that game was just like, what the hell's going on? Who are these people? And it just felt like the story was more for hardcore Halo fans, I felt. And which is fine, which is great. But I felt like there's a way of doing that doesn't alienate casual fans to some degree. And Halo Wars 2 really nailed that for me. That it was this self-contained story that not only recaps everything that's happened in Halo up to this point to do with the arc and stuff like that, but it also doesn't require extracurricular activity. So even though Halo Wars 2 isn't a first-person shooter, I think it's a pretty good way to get introduced to the series from a story perspective. I don't know if you guys will agree with that. But in the sense that Captain Cutter and his crew are sort of disoriented, and they're coming into this galaxy. They didn't even know that the Covenant War had ended, and it was kind of interesting to see them work through the history of what's been going on while also combating this brand new threat that gets their introduction, the Banished and that sort of thing. So I felt very much like more connected to the Halo Wars 2 story than I did Halo 5 story personally. But it's not just the fact that it's self-contained, but it also those amazing blur cinematics, absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, exactly. And the characters like Atriox, I felt Atriox is so much stronger a villain than the Warden Eternal, and all that stuff. I just it didn't connect with the Prometheans and all that sort of stuff. So for me, it was just yeah, this feels like a Halo Wars game for me as a casual Halo fan rather than a hardcore Halo fan. And also, it's just kind of nice to get an RTS for a change.
When was the last one?
God,
a couple, but not to this scale. Yeah.
There's no RTS on this generation of consoles. I mean, we've got Tropico, but that's not an RTS.
There's sort of like a semi-RTS called Air Mech Arena.
Yeah.
Which is sort of RTS-esque. And,
it's like a MOBA.
Yeah, it's like a MOBA RTS sort of deal. But yeah, there's it's just nice to get a new RTS in general, whether you're on PC or on Xbox One. It's not often that we get big name franchises tie into RTS these days, and you go back through history and you think about games like Battle for Middle Earth, and there's a new Dawn of War coming out soon on PC, and obviously PC dominates the RTS arena completely, but it's just really nice that we've got an RTS on Xbox One now that is intuitive with its controls, and it also has this accessible mode for people who maybe aren't familiar with the genre, but they're fans of Halo. They want to play Halo, but they're also more shooter oriented, and they can try Blitz mode, which is sort of like a stripped down version of RTS, and it's more fast paced and it's more accessible for shooter players. And then they can translate from Blitz into the more hardcore PvP modes in Halo Wars 2. I just think Halo Wars 2 is a very, very well-rounded package. High-quality campaign, high-quality multiplayer, high-quality Blitz mode, which is new and unique, throw something new in there. And I just felt like it's a really good, solid package for 40 quid, And that's why I rated it as I did, because I feel like there's a lot of value in that price point, whether you're a Halo fan, whether you're an RTS fan. I just feel like it delivered a lot of value, and that's why I rated it the way I did.
I want to ask you about Blitz mode. That uses cards or something, right? Because I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, Blitz mode is I played Blitz mode a lot, actually, even before the game came out, and because Microsoft were kind enough to give us they gave us a lot of hands-on time with Blitz mode, but not so much the other modes. And I suppose it is because Blitz mode it's so fast-paced that they could fit lots of Blitz mode matches in, whereas a proper full-blown deathmatch in Halo Wars can potentially last for hours.
It's accessibility as well. As you said, it's one of the more accessible modes. So I think, if people were on the fence about getting this game or hadn't had that much experience, putting Blitz mode out in beta was a genius idea in my mind, just to get people into the game and know what the game was about without having, been overloaded, essentially. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of Microsoft's play with Blitz mode. It's kind of similar to what they did with Warzone in Halo 5, where it's less, it's still competitive, but it's less competitive, and it's still got that Halo Wars depth, but not so much depth that a new player would get completely overwhelmed. You can step into Halo 5's Warzone and you can have a blast, just, driving tanks and smashing everyone up and just, going off and doing your own thing. And to a degree, you can sort of do that in Blitz as long as you follow some rules of thumb. So basically what Blitz is, it's a card battler. So you have a deck of cards, each representing different units from Halo Wars. tanks, flying vehicles and soldiers and all sorts of stuff. And also like these epic powers like orbital lasers, and that look absolutely gorgeous when you use them, by the way. It's just spectacular and really fun to use. And it's all about stealing resources from the enemy so you can spend the cards. And it's also about, if you're playing with friends, you can have decks that support each other. So you could have a friend that focuses on support cards while you focus on attacking and defensive cards, and then you have to capture bases, 3 bases, I believe, and it's kind of like a domination style game mode. But even then, if you're not wanting to play against other players, there's even like a blitz mode, horde mode, where you can play against increasingly powerful waves of enemy AI, which again you can have complementing decks, support classes like healing units and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of value there, a lot of depth. And also when you get like the card packs, you can level up the cards, make them do more damage and that sort of thing. So there's like a progressionary layer to it, sort of like in Gears of War where you get the cards and they level up and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's Blitz mode could almost be a game in of itself, and I wouldn't be surprised if they spun off Blitz mode as a free-to-play title in the future. I wouldn't be surprised.
One of the most popular games on the planet at the moment is Clash Royale, and that is for mobile, and that is sort of a cross between, very simple of course, but a cross between a card battler and an RTS. So there's definitely a demand for that kind of thing.
You don't need to know about all your finished games.
Yeah, well, it happens to be the biggest mobile game in the world right now. just saying.
Well, it's funny we talk about mobile games because when I interviewed Creative Assembly back in October, I sat down and played Blitz mode, and the first thing I was thinking was, wouldn't this be great to play on a touchscreen, like dragging the cards onto the screen, dragging the units onto other units? And I was just thinking this would work really well on a touchscreen because you don't have to manage your buildings, you don't have to move around the map so much and that sort of thing. And I said to Creative Assembly, I said, have you ever considered how Blitz mode could be a standalone game for touch devices? And they sort of looked at each other knowingly for a very, very brief moment and said, we're exploring all sorts of possibilities right now, So
that marketing answer.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see Blitz mode spun off as a single standalone title in the future. But yeah, it does have that sort of mobile accessibility-ness about it. But it's still got a lot of depth and it's very addictive. So it's not a bad thing by any stretch. And you don't have to buy the cards. People say, "Oh, microtransaction this, blah blah blah," and I'm not a fan of micropayments because I never spend the money. Although don't look at my credit history when it comes to Overwatch loot crates.
Oh.
But
it's Rocket League loot crates that get me, or FIFA points.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but it's like you'll only ever be matched against people with decks that have similar strengths to your own. So it's not like it's a pay-to-win system. At least I wouldn't. It doesn't look like it's going to be one of those anyway. If you're matched against a deck of equal strength, it's the same deal in Hearthstone. Like you can buy Gwent, the Witcher card game. You can buy card packs to get more powerful cards faster, but you'll still only be competing against people with cards that are the same strength as yours. So the micropayment layer is there simply for people who are willing to click buy. It doesn't affect the game, I wouldn't have thought. But maybe that's a naive answer. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
So, anyway, sound rubbish, 2 out of 10. Rhys, what have you been playing?
I played this week. What did I play this week? Oh, I played Through the Park. That's what I played this week. I went through it in a single sitting. It was
not a horror game.
Yeah.
Or am I getting mixed up with something else? Oh yeah,
it's a horror game. Well, it's sort of. It's like part horror, part psychological, trippy thing. It's hard to describe. You can finish it in about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 if you poke around. But it was very enjoyable. And I also played the DLC for Layers of Fear.
Oh, so that's a steaming pile of.
So I had. Well, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, some of it was okay.
Well, I personally, where's a fee for me? And you know me, I'm not that negative a person to actually have an outburst like that. But I loved Layers of Fear. That when
me
the
too.
DLC was announced and I could get a hold of it, I really couldn't wait. But you spend most of it walking around the foggy area as a free-foot character.
Mm-hmm.
And it just did not click with me at all. And I think it's more disappointment that it didn't click with me the way Layers of Fear did. But did you enjoy it?
Well, I didn't. Some parts, yes. I definitely didn't hate it. But I mean, I paid, like €2 for it. So at the end of the day, I don't think I got ripped off. But the good outweighed the bad when you consider how much it cost. Let me put it that way. But I won't play it again. And if someone asked me, should I get this? I'd probably tell them, you don't need to get that. Like, if you're desperate for more, go ahead. But you should probably just play the park instead, because that's actually quite good.
Myself, this week, I've been playing Death Squared, and I'll talk a lot about that next week, because that's replaced my new favourite co-op game.
Really?
But again, no, it's under NDA, so I'll talk about that. I've also been, just talking about the park, I've been getting a lot of hours into Conan Exiles.
Oh,
A lot of hours into Conan.
I need that
Exiles.
game.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I don't have a gaming PC right now, but it's coming out on Xbox in the spring, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for it to come out in Xbox 2, but I'm using my Wii on my Windows 10 PC, and it's running totally fine in my PC, and I'm really enjoying it. But there's just something that I just prefer playing on Xbox. I don't know what it is. But I'm really enjoying it.
Ross?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to hijack that point you just made. Earlier I raged because I'm not playing Torment Tides of Numenera, even though I've been waiting 3.5 years. But I backed it on PC. But when a console version was announced, I actually went and bought it a second time for the console just so I could play it on my Xbox.
Makes sense. So you want to play in your platform of choice, and it's ridiculous after spending the amount of money that I had on my PC that I've basically ended up wanting to play these games on console. It's bizarre, but I just like to know I've got the option there, and with travelling, I suppose the laptop's quite good. But like Conan Exiles, get more into the building at the moment and developing my sort of town and all the rest of it. It's a phenomenal game that's going to be well at home on Xbox with the Xbox community. I think it's going to keep on growing, that game, and growing. Brilliant. Really enjoying it.
It also has dynamic teabagging.
Yes. We actually had the was it the creative director?
Yes.
I think it was the creative director from Funcom on the podcast to tell us about this Conan game, and he had so many amazing stories about dynamic penises stretching for infinity into the wind. It was one of my favorite interviews. Really, there was just mostly penis talk.
Yeah, basically it was an hour talking about penises.
My girlfriend calls it the penis game. She's not she's not a gamer, and every time I show her a screenshot, she's like, "Oh, is that the penis game?" I show her a GIF of it before.
What I enjoy just on a sort of a sarcastic, self-amusing level is that there was at one point at Funcom like a roundtable discussion about game features, and dynamic penis physics was not only brought up as an idea, but discussed at length and agreed upon and enacted by like a bunch of serious people, and I think that's amazing.
But just to think, on someone's LinkedIn profile somewhere, there is like spent 3 months working on a penis.
Maybe someone studied it at university, and that's like their speciality.
Yeah, it's a new course, Cambridge. That's it. Will we find out what's been happening in the subreddit this week?
We probably should.
Cue Welshwoman.
You're listening to Xbox One Party Chat Podcast. This week in the subreddit.
Rhys, take it away with the first story.
Right. Well, I should probably take what is at the moment the number one topic on the subreddit, and that was posted by user Christoculus or Christoculus, either one of those. Apparently, according to Microsoft, Crackdown 3 is quote unquote all about the boom. I presume that the boom... that was awful. I feel really bad for going there.
Is that a joke?
But no, basically, I presume the game is all about explosions and stuff, very just cause, I suppose. So, there's virtually zero news about this game except for all the super secret stuff that Jazz probably knows and is just sort of snickering in the background about. But no, I actually wanted to talk about, first of all, if you guys are excited about the game and actually just to sort of talk about the Crackdown series in general. I know that you, Ross, have played Crackdown, but we haven't really spent much time talking about Crackdown. Even though Crackdown 1 was a very important game, it was one of the first open world sandbox douchebag simulators, basically, that lets you, dick around and do mean things to dead bodies. So yeah.
This took a dark turn. Don't remember that in the game.
You can pick up the corpses and throw them at cars and stuff.
True.
You didn't do that?
That's true. Yeah, I thought you were going a different direction. But...
No. No. Unless it's a feature I was unaware of.
Yeah, that I don't think that was made the final cut. Yes, I am excited to answer your question about the game. Crackdown 1 was so genre-defining, as you would call it. I had great fun with it at the time. Of course, when it was Games of Gold not that long before the Xbox One or after the Xbox One, I can't remember, but I tried to pick it up again and it didn't click with me the same way, but it's quite old now, the original Crackdown. But if I go back to the memories, was there anything like just jumping in between buildings, collecting orbs, shooting things? Does it get any better?
It was pretty amazing. I like the transforming cars too. What about you, Jed? Did you play first one when it came out?
This is awkward because I've got huge blind spots in my gaming history because during my early 20s I was hopelessly addicted to World of Warcraft, and I used to play all day every day, unemployed. And my Xbox 360 kind of didn't get much of a look in during those years. So Crackdown sadly completely passed me by. I haven't played either of them. So that's a shame. So Crackdown 3 will probably be my first.
Are you excited then?
Well,
see what all the fuss is about.
We actually saw Crackdown 3 behind closed doors, quote unquote, at E3 last summer.
And, Ross, why did we bring this guy on the podcast? It makes me sad.
He shows off more than you.
I know.
Says quite a lot.
Yeah. Not showing off. It's just a fact.
You're showing off. That's not better at all.
So you saw the game and you can't tell us anything.
No, I can. We wrote a preview on it, but it's nothing. It's nothing that isn't already out there. They showed us the multiplayer destruction is what they showed us, and it was pretty much the same stuff that went out in the trailers. And they didn't let us record it, but they let IGN record it for some reason, which is really mean. But anyway, yeah, it's it looks amazing. I suppose what it's going to hinge on is whether or not the cloud stuff actually works as intended. And second of all, will the multiplayer be compelling enough that it's not just a novelty after you've done it once kind of thing? That's what I'm thinking. As someone who isn't sort of attached to Crackdown as a franchise, I'm wondering, is the destruction actually going to be fun after the novelty wears off, or is the multiplayer actually going to be this compelling thing that you want to go back to over and over and over again? And when it comes to single player, I don't know. Honestly, don't know what to expect because I don't know much about Crackdown, which is, it's just a big blind spot in my gaming career.
Well, I mean, I can give you a quick rundown. It was basically just an open world game, and there was a series of bases dotted around the map, and with like a boss, and you could infiltrate whichever base you wanted in whichever way you wanted at any time you wanted, and kill the boss in any way you wanted, and that was basically the game. There was just a series of areas around a huge open world. I mean, of course, that's distilling it down to like a half a dozen sentences, but that was really the crux of it. It was just a big playground. You could completely ignore the story and just, throw dead grandmas at school buses if you really felt like that. So yeah, I mean, it was the game was silly, and like Ross says, it hasn't aged well because it really is just or at least it was the first Crackdown. It was just the fun was what you've made like with your friends. Like it really was a sandbox game, and if your friend trying to make a jump and plummeting 30 stories to his death doesn't make you laugh, then the game really doesn't have much appeal, I guess. But you're better for not having played Crackdown 2 because that was awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. To be honest.
Absolutely
I just didn't enjoy it.
Terrible.
I suppose what it's really going to hinge on then is whether or not the sandbox genre has moved on beyond what Microsoft are going to do with Crackdown 3. Like, is Just Cause... Because Just Cause 3... I always see Just Cause 3 GIFs on Reddit all the time. People doing crazy things with the physics and that and stuff like that. So it's kind of like... Crackdown might have defined the genre all those years ago, but will the genre have moved on beyond what they come out with at the end of this year? I suppose that it's because now it's going to be compared to many games, whereas the first one wasn't compared to many games. So I suppose that's the real question mark that hangs over Crackdown. We'll probably hear more about it at E3.
More than
does
likely.
Comments like this worry you when people are saying online, "Oh, it's all about the boom"?
Yeah, I guess so. I suppose they're talking about. Well, I haven't read the article, but just going off the headline, it's kind of like they're going to put a heavy emphasis on the sandbox mayhem aspect of it, the Just Cause 3 sort of aspects of it, and but there are games like out there like Grand Theft Auto 5, which have just continued to be a total phenomenon purely on the basis of its compelling sandbox gameplay. So if Microsoft can even capture a tiny fragment of that market, I think they'll be onto something pretty cool. And let's face it, blowing things up is fun.
So fun.
Blowing things up with the power of the cloud backing it is even more fun. But I think people will. I think I can already hear one of the criticisms of Crackdown 3 is going to be it's almost like a tease that we get the cloud destruction physics in one mode, but we don't get them in the main mode. I can already hear that criticism coming down from certain outlets. We don't know much about the game yet. It's like I say, you were joking earlier that maybe Jez knows something about. Honestly, that I don't know anything about Crackdown since that E3 thing that lots of outlets got to check out. There hasn't really been any information about it, and one of the reasons for that is Microsoft tend to market one game at a time and stick to that sole game until it's out. And for now they've been doing Halo Wars 2, but now Halo Wars 2's out the door. They're going to shift over to another game, and they'll shift over to another game as we head towards E3, and then it'll be all the games, that sort of thing. So whatever exclusives next for Microsoft, and we don't really know what it is at this point.
No,
it could be State of Decay 2.
It could be. It's funny what you say. I think it's actually a really astute observation about how Microsoft works. I mean, if you compare them to Sony, if Microsoft is doing one game at a time for advertising, Sony is more like backing up a dump truck and just dumping the whole next 6 years worth of games on your feet and be like, yeah, it's coming. Yeah. It's a completely different way of doing business.
But I would love to have a Last of Us 2 moment, when they had their PlayStation experience and they dropped that Last of Us 2 and just the reaction, when are we going to have that reaction? Have we got to wait to E3 for it?
Maybe.
Possibly. I think at this point, probably any large game announcements are going to be in Microsoft's E3 presser, which it's the Sunday before E3 itself now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
okay. So he's been on the episode the whole way, but Jez, we've got some questions for you, so we're going to do role reversal. It's usually you asking all the questions. Now we can get our own back.
We've got to warn you, Jez, this is serious, hard-hitting journalism that you're just not prepared for.
I'm kind of nervous. I've never been interviewed before, so
Have you not?
no, I've not. I've never been.
I
did
should
you
have
get
written
your
some
job,
harder
then?
questions.
That's the first question. How did you get your job if you've never had an interview?
Well, right,
Was
my
there a
job
black
at Windows
couch?
Central. I actually got my job at Windows Central because of a Windows Phone article I wrote, not an Xbox article. Some of you guys might be familiar with a website called icxm.net.
Yes.
I hand coded that website back when it was called xboxmad.net, and I used to run it myself a couple of years ago. I made that blog for a hobby. I made it for fun. One weekend, it was actually after the the whole DRM gate thing happened that summer, and the whole internet was in uproar. Microsoft are evil, blah 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 blah. Well, what happened was I had a big argument with someone I knew in real life about it. And I was just trying to explain, like, it's not so bad, when is your console ever disconnected from the internet, blah, blah, blah. And I found myself trying to defend Microsoft. And I was, like, tweeting about it back when I had, like, 50 followers. And then all these people started coming to me and saying, oh, you should start a blog, And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a blog. And me and this guy, whose Twitter handle was actually Xbox Mad UK, we both decided to start a blog together, and he had like a few thousand followers at this point, and I had like a couple of hundred. So we decided to use his Twitter account as the brand for the site. And so I just started blogging about things that I enjoy, like Xbox, Windows, and and Windows Phone as well. I'm a big fan of Windows Phone.
Wait, did we just become best friends?
You got a Windows phone?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'm impressed.
I've never met someone else.
I feel left out of this like disabled bunch of people.
Windows Phone bonding.
Windows Phone bondage.
Not quite. Bonding.
It's a whole new level.
That escalated quickly. But no. This is turning into a long story, but I actually told this story on Beam recently. But what happened? What really happened that got me into Microsoft was there was this. I had this female friend, and she had a boyfriend. And long story short, her boyfriend really didn't like me, and he was a massive Apple fanboy. And it was the first time I'd ever encountered someone who was a fanboy of a company. So to contradict him and annoy him, and he was the kind of guy who had the Apple logo stuck to his front door, and he had like Steve Jobs' biography on the table. If he ever hears this, he'll probably like try and hunt me down and kill me. Yeah, those people really exist.
Oh, wow. I thought that was just a meme.
No, it's real. Trust me. But anyway, this guy was a huge Apple fanboy. So to contradict him and annoy him, I became a Microsoft fanboy, like just to troll him in real life. But I found that I was actually pretty good at it. So I started, I had this Twitter account. My Twitter account used to be called at MSFTY, Microsofty. And, I was tweeting all this stuff and people were listening. So I started writing a blog, and Microsoft are very supportive of independent bloggers. And, you're probably aware, the Xbox executives, they do small podcasts and stuff like that. Well, it was the same way for Windows Phone. So, or at least it was back when Microsoft cared about it.
Oh, so, I feel bad again.
But yeah, sorry about that. But this is turning into a really long and boring story, so I'll wrap it up quickly.
Keep going.
But basically, back when Nokia were at their height, they had like a fan program for fan sites, and we'd been writing about Windows Phone on Xbox Mad quite a bit. And they invited me to Mobile World Congress in Barcelona to see the Lumia 640 get launched and to interview Nokia VP of marketing. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I went to Barcelona, checked out the new phone, took photographs of it, and wrote up a bunch of articles on Xbox Mad for it. And we interviewed this Nokia VP for marketing, and I posted it on Xbox Mad, and then someone posted it from Xbox Mad onto the Windows Phone subreddit, and it got upvoted to the top. And then I got an email from Daniel Rubino, who's the editor-in-chief of Windows Central, offering me a job. So
Phenomenal.
the rest is history, literally. I was like, yeah, sure. So I handed Xbox Map
Reddit.
off. Yeah, it was Reddit. It was all Reddit. Reddit and Twitter is how I got my job. And I handed Xbox Mad. Xbox Mad had been rebranded to ICXM, and I handed that off to someone else to run. And then I joined Windows Central and as a freelancer and just sort of rose through the ranks, proved myself, and now I'm senior editor, which is pretty awesome.
I think so.
Now, you're in Cologne, is that right, in Germany?
Right now, I live in South Germany, near a town called Rothenburg. But I'm going back to the UK next month, though.
Permanently coming back here?
I sort of live between here in Germany and UK right now because my girlfriend lives in Germany. So I live here for a few months and then I go back to England for a few months because neither of us want to move country.
The European problem.
Yeah.
You might be forced to in a few years.
So it's I sort of live between countries right now.
So tell us a little bit about Windows Central then. For anyone living under a rock who doesn't actually know about your website, what are you guys all about?
So Windows Central was formerly called Windows Phone Central, and we're pretty much the number one website for Windows Phone on the internet. Now, people might laugh at that. I
used to read that site religiously.
Yeah, we were like the only place Windows Phone news, and for the longest time. And there are some other quality sites out there now, but Windows Phone's been on a decline for the last 3 or 4 years or so at this point. And so they decided to, because we were posting so much about Surface and because Microsoft were consolidating their ecosystem under the Universal Windows platform, whereas Windows 10 Mobile might as well not exist now. It's all just Windows 10. Xbox is Windows 10. It's all Windows 10. So we decided to become Windows Central to reflect that and expand as well at the same time. So we still have our passionate Windows Phone user base, but I've been trying to expand into Xbox coverage more and more, which is very, very hard to compete with those big sites on Xbox coverage. But we are redesigning the front of Windows Central soon. So we've got a dedicated section just to gaming, a dedicated section to Surface and laptop hardware, a dedicated section to Windows 10 and apps and stuff like that. So if you are interested in Xbox but you're not interested in Windows Phone, then they won't all be mashed together in a column like they are right now. So we're still growing. We are like a big destination for Windows, but not so much on Xbox. But I'm trying to fix that over time. Hopefully going to be expanding to more game coverage, not just Xbox coverage, but also game coverage as well. But it's a lot of work. We leak Windows stuff. That's what we do at Windows Central.
Being part of that, one of the more popular Windows websites you could say in the web, you must get to do some really, really cool things. So what is the single coolest thing that you've got to do because of your job?
Well, I'm just going to throw it out there. Last year was probably the best year of my life in terms of cool stuff that I got to do. Before working at Windows Central, I was an IT technician for a high school. No room for a promotion and stuff like that. I dropped out of high school to play Halo, when I was a kid. And
my man.
I dropped, to play Halo and World of Warcraft. That was literally all I cared about when I was younger. And so I was I'd sort of resigned myself to never being able to do cool stuff. But I got very, very lucky and I got hired by Windows Central. And Windows Central sent me to E3 last year, which was just amazing. I never thought I'd get to go to a place like that. Also, Microsoft invited me to Redmond last October to check out 343 Industries. So I went to 343 Industries and played Halo Wars 2. I interviewed Dan Ayub and the chaps at Creative Assembly, and I never thought I'd get to do that either. At E3, I interviewed Hideki Kamiya about Scalebound.
Oh,
that was worthwhile.
we all know how that ended. But
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose to blame you. I'm going to make a thread on Reddit.
I heard it was doing fine up until you interviewed them.
Yeah.
I also, actually, the very first game interview I did was with the senior producer, and this was for Xbox Mad, by the way. Because for Xbox Mad, I still had my full-time job working as IT technician, and I paid for myself to go to Gamescom. I couldn't afford a hotel, so I slept in the airport. But that was rough. That was so rough. But at Gamescom that year, I interviewed. The first interview I ever had was with the senior developer of Fable Legends.
Oh no!
And then I interviewed the senior developer for Scalebound straight after.
Who else have you poisoned?
Yeah, it's like I'm cursed now. But
Jamome's brother?
I think we just ruined his career, actually, by airing that. I don't going to want to interview you anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm concerned for my own help. Oh, it's us interviewing you. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Who knows? Maybe I've passed the curse on now, and the next person.
It's like The Ring. You have to show the video to someone else.
Yeah.
But you actually run your own podcast as well on the side. Xbox Central used to be called OneCast. Tell us about that one.
Well, as part of trying to just bring a bit more positivity, I guess, to gaming coverage, because that was almost my thing. Like, I want to bring some positivity to Xbox coverage, and that's always been my sort of naive sort of goal with all of this stuff. And so one aspect of that was that we do our own podcast as well. That was very, very positive, and kind of like a fan cast, just something that celebrates Xbox, kind of like what you guys are doing,
Yeah.
And there are plenty of podcasts out there that do that as well, but I just sort of wanted my own because my schedule.
But they're all rubbish.
As I say, we do run our own podcast, Xbox Central, on SoundCloud. Quick plug, soundcloud.com/Xbox Central. But we don't podcast that often because schedule's just so tight lately. But we just pretty much do what you guys do. I mean, literally, when you said the first thing we usually talk about is what games we've been playing this week, that's what we do on Xbox Central as well. What games we've been playing this week.
That's podcast 101. Like every gaming podcast in the world. I can't wait to drop that.
But we also dive into the UWP aspects a lot, the Windows side of things a lot. Because we do cover the whole ecosystem. We often talk about apps and some of the stuff that maybe only Xbox fans are interested in, rather than just general gaming fans. Because you start talking about UWP sometimes, and people switch off and fall asleep. But I really love that stuff. So we talk about that sometimes, and just general gaming stuff, controversy, and occasionally a bit of Windows Phone in there as well.
Yes. I mean, we're guilty of talking about boring apps too. I think last week we spent 20 minutes nerding out about Cody coming to the Xbox One.
That was my best article of the week. That was.
Right?
Yeah. I spent all this time writing these massive articles, researched for the week, and then I quick posted Cody's coming to Xbox One, and it's 15,000 hits and the 30,000 hits the next day. It's what the hell is this? Why is this such a big deal? But people love Cody, really, really love that thing.
Yeah. So, speaking of articles you've written, I'm going to ask this next question because Ross has some very, very important questions coming up for you at the very end of this interview that he asks every week, and I'm just not experienced enough to sort of deliver a question of such brevity. But I want to ask that basically I noticed that you wrote your own Game of the Year awards for 2016, and I quite liked all of them except your actual Game of the Year, for anyone who doesn't know, was The Flame and Flood.
Yeah.
I haven't played it. Sell it to me. I want to know why.
I love Flame and Flood, right? Because it's got an amazing soundtrack. There's lots of reasons why Flame and Flood, but when I wrote that article when I was a bit drunk, I admit, and sometimes when whenever anyone asks me, what is your favorite X, I always write down the first thing that comes into my head. And when I ask myself the question, what is your favorite game of 2016? The first thing that popped into my head was The Flame and the Flood. And the reason being is that it was just the most unique game I played that year. It was so rewarding, and it was the game that I was just totally engrossed in. The Flame and the Flood last year. And my reasons are just completely subjective and unscientific, which is why I wanted to do like my own game awards that were just like my own ridiculous reasons. But some of the reasons are I really adore the soundtrack, and it was made by Chuck Ragan, and it's my kind of music, like acoustic music, folky, and it's all about the game, like it's very thematic of the game, which is sort of like this post-apocalyptic world that's been flooded, and you're the only survivor, or one of the very few survivors, and it's a craft 'em up game where you have to get resources like sticks and make traps, and then trap wolves and get the meat and cook the meat and not get infected and stuff like that. It's very sort of similar to The Long Dark, but with a sort of isometric viewpoint. It was made by a developer called the Molasses Flood, who are made up of ex-developers from Irrational Games who worked on BioShock, and also some ex-Halo devs, I believe. And so it's got this gorgeous sort of almost like Picasso art style, where it's very haunting sort of quality, very similar to BioShock. And any BioShock fan will recognize Flame the Flood's art style straight away, I would say. And it's just a really charming, lovely game. And if you're a fan of survival games in general, I think you probably played The Flame and the Flood already. But if you haven't, you absolutely need to. It's a really.
I don't know
really
if you can hear
game.
my mouse going, but like I'm on my way to download this like right now.
It's just such a charming game. It really is. And it's very unique as well. There's not many games that let you, swim down a river on a rickety raft and upgrade it and stuff like that, because it's all procedurally generated as well. You travel down this river on a raft and you can upgrade it, and then you can enter these sort of areas, isometric areas like woods and abandoned cities and stuff, and scavenge for supplies and that sort of thing. It's awesome. Definitely recommend it. Definitely check it out.
I think I'm going to buy it as well now, Jess.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting listening, not speaking. It's very rare to keep me quiet, but... Well, look, there is one last question which I just need to ask you, and I'm sorry that I have to do this to you, because you seem quite a nice guy. Quite a nice guy, but what classic video game character could you knock out with one punch?
Classic video game character.
It can be, you define classic. It can be pretty much anything.
For some reason, the first thing that came to mind was Mario. I don't know why.
Right in the big nose.
Yeah, I mean, what is Mario? Like, he's like plumber. It makes no sense. I don't like Mario. It just
You
doesn't
don't
make
like
any
Mario?
sense.
Wait,
No, I don't.
that's a quote.
Yeah.
Yes, from Windows Central. I don't like Mario. That's going to be the top article on Nintendo Life tomorrow. You wait.
He's just so arrogant, He thinks he's this super plumber, but how much plumbing does he actually do in those games? I don't actually think he's a legitimate plumber, personally.
You don't think he's qualified?
No, I don't. And we've never seen his qualifications. I'm throwing it out there right now. I don't think Mario's a plumber at all.
Oh, wow.
I think it's fake news that he's a plumber.
Chortle snicker guffaw.
Wow. Well, with that bombshell, I think I'm going to take us out of this podcast.
Probably the safest thing to do at this point, because I can already hear the Nintendo fans scratching at the door. I moderate our Nintendo. I'm allowed to say that.
Look, Jez, thank you for taking the time for joining us on this week's episode.
Thanks,
I suppose Rhys as well.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to checking out what Windows Central has to offer. And I'm going to give you this. You've plugged a little bit. Go on, 20 seconds to plug. On you go.
WindowsCentral.com is a website where we post things sometimes. Sometimes they have pictures, sometimes they don't have pictures. But when they do have pictures, they're very cool pictures. So come and have a look.
There's a lot of pictures.
That was probably the best advertisement of Windows Central I've ever heard, though.
We should record that and play it every week.
Yeah, we
should
basically should. And Jez, if anyone wants to follow you on Twitter, where will they find you?
They will find me at Jez Corden, JZCorden. If you like anime gifs and sarcasm, come and give me a follow. We'll chat and be friends.
Excellent.
Well, thanks again, and Rhys, pleasure as always.
Indeed,
but
Ross.
for another week, Xbox turn off.
You're listening to Xbox One Party Chat Podcast, the official podcast of the Xbox One subreddit.
It's settled. Let's do this.
Oh, Jess, can you give us a soundbite?
Soundbite?
Yeah, like, hi, I'm insert name from insert website, and you're listening to the Party Chat podcast.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm nobody, but,
You know, if you don't have to, you don't want to.
Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind. How do I do this? I'll do it on Audacity then, I guess, or...
No, just speak. I'll get off the Skype.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jez Corden from Windows Central, and you're listening to the... I forgot the name of the podcast.
That's embarrassing. You know what? That was actually better than an intro, because now we've got an outro.
Yeah, we do.